When it comes to 10 scale these days, my assumption initially was that the only time people tend to run 10 scale vehicles are when it's indoors. It's come to my attention though that this is only half true. While it is true that the majority of larger 10 scale RC races take place indoors on carpet, dirt, or astro tracks, the cars we run are much more versatile than that, even with higher grip setups we've come to know. You can absolutely make a 10 scale car, even with a laydown transmission or laydown transmissions, work on outdoor dirt. Of course, there are a few things you need to do first, but to be honest, none of it is really invasive, especially if the car has 4-wheel drive. In this public service announcement, I'm going to convince you to run your 10 scale cars outside on outdoor dirt tracks by challenging preconceived ideas and norms. Before we begin, I'd like to thank this channel's sponsors, Aiming Hobbies, Peach State Hobbies, and Cow RC. Anything you guys purchase using the links in the description below will directly support me as well. Let's begin. Let's start with the main excuse that a lot of people, including myself, parroted for a little while, that these cars were not designed for outdoor dirt racing. This is still partially true, but only for certain cars. The B7 in its stock form with the 5-gear transmission, even with a ball diff, will be a bit difficult to tune for outdoor dirt because the motor is so far forward. These 5-gear transmissions were made for higher grip surfaces, so making one work on loose dirt will be an uphill battle. This only really applies to a completely stock B7. There are still things you can do to make it work if you wish, such as weight tabs in the rear, moving the battery back further, and even the aftermarket R1 transmission. Now, I have complained about the R1 transmission in the past in a stock class context, but it actually works pretty well in theory as a dirt transmission option, as the weight is more biased towards the rear, from both the motor being moved further back and the fact that the transmission is now made out of a heavier material. It's also important to note that this only really applies to the B7 and the 2025 XB2 Carpet Edition. Pretty much every other 2-wheel drive buggy on the market today other than those two has a 3-gear transmission. These buggies include, but are not limited to, the 2025 X-Ray XB2 Dirt Edition, the Mugen MSB1, the TLR 22X, the Schumacher LD3, the Kyosho RB 7.5, and the Schumacher SRX2 Spider. All of these buggies with just a little bit of work and the right tires can be really good when set up correctly, but once again we've only been talking about the 2-wheel drive side of things. What about the 4-wheel drive side? 4-wheel drive buggy is the other premier class in 10 scale off-road racing, and trust me, even on a larger 8 scale track like this, it's extremely fun to drive this once carpet car around an outdoor track. Since pretty much every single 4-wheel drive buggy either currently has or will have the same rough layout like I mentioned in my 4-wheel drive versus 2-wheel drive buggy video, each and every one of them can be set up in roughly a similar way. Of course, there may be some differences between the cars in terms of diff weights, pistons, and shock weights, but overall, they very much are able to handle pretty much anything you throw at them. Now, of course, I don't expect a 10 scale car to be able to handle a track like a race time like event, like P&B or Wicked Weekend, but your average outdoor track would be perfect for a mod or even stock 4-wheel drive buggy. Don't think I forgot about truck classes either, because in an outdoor setting I believe these classes can thrive compared to how they are now. Currently, the buggy classes are king for a few reasons, chief among them for their ease of maintenance, and the fact that on a high grip surface, they pretty much just drive better than short course trucks or stadium trucks. On loose dirt though, those same driving characteristics that make the truck classes a little bit lazy and unpredictable compared to a buggy, make them superb for outdoor loose dirt. They actually have a place on those types of tracks. Just another reason I wish outdoor 10 scale was shown more often. Next up is the tire game. Now, I know that the tire game for outdoor racing can be a bit jarring at first glance, but trust me, it really doesn't have to be. If you run both 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive buggy, which a lot of people in the 10 scale space do, you'll probably have to grab about 4 sets of tires. Luckily, since 10 scale stuff is much smaller and thus cheaper, grabbing a few sets of high-end rubber for your 10 scale vehicles doesn't have to completely break your wallet. The best part about the outdoor tire game though is the lack of traction compound. Traction compound, like I mentioned in my previous video about 10 scale track surfaces, is really nasty stuff that will give you a headache at best and can give you straight up cancer at worst. In outdoor track surfaces, barring specific circumstances, traction compound isn't really necessary. All you really need to do is clean the tires after each run, which if you're used to 8 scale racing outdoors isn't really an issue. Even though this next part could be considered a bad thing, I don't think it really is. In outdoor 8 scale racing, there are a plethora of different tire choices that can make an average racer's head spin. In 10 scale, things are much simpler. Pins and lug style tires to start out with during the morning, move on to a dense pin style tire like a Rehab or a Sprinter later in the day, and that's about it. You can go to a web style tire if you're feeling a little bit brave, but that isn't really necessary. This also extends to brands as well, as most of pretty much all of the tire companies that make 10 scale tires would be J Concepts, Proline, Raw Speed, aka, and kind of Hot Race. Simple fact of the matter is, the 10 scale outdoor tire game is better in some cases, not so much in others. However, I believe that the majority of those positive that I mentioned before are very hard to ignore. Next up, we have the sort of basher side of things. One very important RC truck that has gotten thousands into the RC racing hobby would have to be the Traxxas Slash. Even though the Slash isn't exactly a race-bred vehicle, it can do very well in a looser outdoor track with only a few mods. Things like linear springs and different tires are pretty much the only things you need to do to make the Slash work on an outdoor surface. So much so that in the right hands it can not only drive well on those surfaces, but compete at a club level with other more race-oriented trucks. This isn't really the case on high-grip dirt tracks and in carpet tracks though. Trying to get a Slash or really any Traxxas car to perform well on a carpet track is like trying to wire a house using boxing gloves. It's really not worth doing beyond just saying you've done it. This doesn't just extend to the Slash though. There are many different 10 scale basher cars and trucks that could perform very well on loose outdoor tracks if given the chance. The Armour Fury, the Traxxas Slash's main competitor right now, springs immediately to mind. The Losi 22 SCT RTR was based on a racing truck from that era in the first place, so of course that will work, as will the Associated Pro 2. And lastly, there's the HPI Jump Shot, which may not be too popular, but looking at the design, it seems very similar to the old Fury from Arma, so it will more than likely work as well. Throw in some buggies like the RB10 and 4x4s like the Slash 4x4 and the Arma Sentin, and you have quite a few bashers that can ease an RC enthusiast into racing. The main thing about all these buggies and trucks I mentioned is this: they're all relatively cheap compared to full-blown race cars, especially 10 scale and 8 scale ones. Not everyone wants to or can spend upwards of $700 to try something new, no matter how tempting it may be. Because RTR trucks and buggies are able to perform on outdoor tracks with relative ease, they become more welcoming to bashers and other RC enthusiasts who may want to just pop around the track for a few practice laps, or with their new RC toy. This is where a lot of new RC racers are born in my opinion, and having that lane closed would really slow things down in terms of growth. The last and most important reason why I want 10 scale outdoor racing to be more of a thing is quite simply because we're already doing it. Every track I've shown in this video either previously has or are currently running 10 scale outdoors in some form, be it small or big. Now I put a few posts out there for people who wanted to shout out their tracks that run outdoor 10 scale tracks, and let me say you guys absolutely killed it. So to get this point across, I'm going to name all of them. All of the tracks that came through as me running the script. Easley RC Complex, Hobby Haven RC, Pit Stop Hobbies, Newberry RC, Pepper Tree RC, RC3 RC Track, LCRC, WOCRC, Partling Hobbies, GSRC, Hobby ECT, Dynamic RC, Playground RC, RCCCS, Palouse River RC, Roadrunners RC, Callahan Off-Road RC Raceway, Saratoga Flowwood RC Raceway, B&T RC, Monk's Corner RC Raceway, Phil Hurd RC Raceway, and so many more. The last main thing about 10 scale outdoor racing that I personally find it is just less stressful. I can't really explain why, but for me, the majority of the time when I run 10 scale outdoors and when things are running properly, I feel happy. And at the end of the day, I got into RC because it made me feel happy. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and sub to the channel as well. We're inching closer and closer to 10k subscribers, and I have some things planned for when we do. Also, if you want to support me in another way, you can either become a channel member or subscribe to my Patreon. Speaking of which, I'd like to thank my active patrons Michael Williams, Dave Armstrong, Rob Bedingfield, Caden Merks, Ian Petrie, Jeffrey Kunz, Shane T. Ruth, Gable Barber, Freeman Racing Team, and my channel members, Jeffrey Kunz again, RC Trophy Chasers, Ralisk86, Claymore RC, Brian G, and especially Morris Edouard. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.